Well, as you will have heard, this week's report from the Howard League for Penal Reform suggests Jersey creates a new lead minister for children's services role. But exactly what form should that take? Who would pay for it? What powers would the position carry? Well, Jersey law firm Hanson Renouf is campaigning for the introduction of a children's commissioner for the island. Barbara Corbett is from Hanson Renouf. She joins me in the studio. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
So what exactly do you mean by a children's commissioner? What are we talking about here?
Well, a children's commissioner will be somebody, or possibly a panel of people who are completely independent, not part of the states, not part of the Council of Ministers, and would be able to advise children and adults in relation to children matters, perhaps to hear complaints, to lobby and to discuss policy issues when legislation is being drafted, to make sure consideration of children is given at all stages.
And what authority or power would you see the commissioners having?
Well, in England they have a children's commissioner and really doesn't have very many teeth. What we would propose for Jersey is something much more wide-ranging, more a children's commissioner and an ombudsman, so that the children's commissioner will be there to provide information and access, possibly through an interactive website, which is one thing the English Commissioner under the 11 million system does very well, but also to have extra teeth so that complaints could be heard, adjudications possibly, and as I said, policy issues debated at the early stages of legislation.
So you'd be both proactive and reactive?
Absolutely.
Now, the Howard League for Penal Reform suggests the island should appoint a lead minister for children's services. Earlier in the year, the Williamson report called for a minister for children to be created. What's the difference between a children's commissioner, a children's minister, and would the position you're calling for sort of fit in with the Howard League's recommendations? I
think it would fit in very well. A children's minister would be one of the ministers, would have a particular responsibility for children, as in the Health and Social Services Minister or Education Minister now, whereas the children's commissioner would be different, would be outside the states as such. And the proposals we have is, rather than even have it in the role taken by one person might not have all the skills that are necessary. So, and also, one person is unlikely to be employed full-time doing this job in a place as small as Jersey.
Yeah, could a children's commission indeed be found here, or would they need to come over the water, perhaps from the Association of Lawyers for Children that they have over there?
Well, this is what we've proposed, is that rather than there be a person who perhaps would be very good at some things but not other things, the Association of Lawyers for Children is an organisation where consisting of lawyers with lots of different expertise in children's matters of a variety of subjects, but also children's guardians and social workers, and so it's a broad, wide-ranging organisation, and they have a lot of skills together. So that rather than being the children's commissioner or ombudsman being one person, we propose a panel. And if that panel were to be administered through the Association of Lawyers for Children, it would make it a lot easier for Jersey, because all they need to do is just get the ALC to organise the panel and to set up the website and deal with all the matters that need to be dealt with.
But if they came from the UK, the laws are different over here, aren't they?
Well, mostly it's not necessarily the actual law that's most important in terms of complaints and making sure that the children know what's available. In terms of actual Jersey law, then Hanson Renouf are more than happy to advise the ALC where that becomes a particular matter of relevance, obviously free of charge, because this is a community matter.
How much would creating this role cost? Has it been costed, and who would pay for it?
It's very difficult to say how much it would cost. Really, perhaps it's a question of cutting your coat according to your cloth, but we think that for £25,000 a year, a very good service could be provided. And when you compare that to the Consumer Council, which has a budget of £90,000 a year, which does a similar thing on behalf of consumers, we feel that for children, £25,000 a year would actually be good value for the children of Jersey.
Now, last week, Senator Jimmy Pershar told us that plans to introduce a new political champion for children in Jersey were actually well advanced, and the states would be discussing the idea early next year. Let's be clear, is a political champion what you're calling for?
No, there's no reason why we can't have both. A minister for children or a political champion is one thing, whereas a children's commissioner or the panel of the children's commissioner and ombudsman would be a more long-standing role and access could be obtained for children and families and other people working with children.
Interesting. A couple of other things I just briefly want to cover. How do you regard the likely ratification by the states of Jersey of the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child? And would that mean a lot of law changes over here?
I don't know how likely it is, but it certainly should happen. There really ought to be ratification. Jersey is a country that cares about its children, so it's important that the convention is ratified.
And the Howard League for Penal Reform praised Jersey's parish hall inquiry system, suggested it could be extended. Now, this system doesn't necessarily involve lawyers, so I just wonder, as a law firm, what you make to that.
Anything that can help the system improve for children is going to be good. You don't need lawyers at every stage.
Thank you very much, Barbara Corbett, for joining us. Really appreciate your comments from the Hansel Renoff law firm. And if you've got any comments on what you've heard Barbara say, please do let us know. 720255 and calls for a children's commissioner to be appointed in Jersey.